Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three in.
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday, April 3rd. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just reach out or go to andymoorehonda.com and get more to your door. In addition to the wealth of family of restaurants of Endeavor Hospitality in and around the Bloomington area, great places like Baby's Market, where you'll find me each and every Friday. Great place to, oh my gosh, I had a ribeye from there yesterday, and all I could think about was how good it was. And I'm not kidding.
Ribeye.
Oh, man, dude, I was a filet guy forever, but ribeye is where it's at. A great show lined up for you today, as always. Dustin Dopirak will join us, of course. And Coach Tom Crean is going to join us to preview tonight's men's Final Four championship. We'll talk about the tournament in and of itself. What's he up to? What's going on with Coach Crean? And just plenty to talk about in regards to college basketball. It's a crazy time. I mean, of course, yesterday we had the women's NCAA championship with LSU as they powered past Iowa to win their first national championship in basketball on either side. And I can tell you, they did not like the antics of one Caitlin Clark. I'm trying to find something that I saw earlier. There was something else that I sent out.
I'd seen that one of the players for LSU did a wave or something at Caitlin Clark after the game was over.
Well, I sent out a tweet. She did this John Cena thing. You can't see me.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Either call it John Cena or the Magic Man from what was the Talladega Nights.
Okay.
Remember the Magic Man. But anyway, it was actually, she would do the John Cena. You can't see me. Well, that was okay, but I think that really pissed off the other players and people and it was, and I got to tell you, Caitlin Clark is the baddest ass player, female player in the game. There's no doubt to that. What she can do is incredible. I'm like, some of the shots she hits, I'm like, wow. I mean, you're just like, you're in awe of her ability. And I don't mind some trash talk. I mean, she kind of reminds me a little bit of a female Larry Bird in a lot of ways. And of course, back in the day, I had no idea that Larry Bird was the king of the kings of trash talk. But the one thing that really kind of got to, I think the other night, the semifinal game, their strategy was to let the other team just shoot. And she kind of gave this wave off to a guard that was not like, go ahead, shoot. And it just, her antics over the course of the year from teams that are outside of the Big Ten Conference, they see that stuff. And it's like, you've got to have a little bit of respect within the game. And being a badass is cool. She is that. There is no question about her abilities. They are immense. But she got a little bit of what do you? I forget. I can't think of the words.
A taste of her own medicine.
She got a little bit of her comeuppance last night, but yeah,
go.
not only did I'm trying to think of the girl from LSU that did that. Daggone it, I know her name, but anyway, not only does she give her the John Cena, she then starts pointing to the ring finger. She just keeps pointing to her ring finger. National championship, and Caitlin didn't want to have any. She didn't have anything to do with that, but it was a good, okay game, I guess. But I'd love to see the ratings for the South Carolina Iowa game. Holy cow. I wonder where those ratings are going to stack up with some of these men's games. I mean, I was watching it. Who wasn't watching the South Carolina Iowa game? That was what people thought was the de facto national championship. And it was not. LSU was a lot stronger than people thought. Coach Kim Mulkey with her fourth.
I've got one comment about LSU. I noticed they were a 3 seed and they only had 2 losses. How does that happen?
You sure they were 3 seed, not a 2?
Positive. Unless the way it was being shown on the ESPN app was incorrect.
I bet you they were the number 3 overall seed.
That doesn't. That could be the case.
They started showing overall seeds, I think.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. Because I was like, how the hell are they a 3 seed? The only thing that would make sense to me, and I didn't look too far into it, would be if their 2 losses were just to some really bad teams.
Harry thinks I just flipped everybody off. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you actually did give them the middle finger by accident. I wasn't going to say anything. But yeah, instead of the ring finger, you pointed your middle finger at them.
Oh, well, my bad. I'm not wearing any rings, so as you can tell, I don't know ring.
Yeah, it must have been by overall, because LSU's only losses on the season were to South Carolina and Tennessee, who are both great programs.
Yeah, Tennessee, a team that Indiana beat, of course. How's everybody doing today? Appreciate everybody hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and I hope your weekend was good and you're ready to get your week started. People joining us from all over, and we appreciate you. How's everybody doing up in the region, our region rats, listening on WJOB? I hope everyone's having a great day up there. All the IU fans that are up in the Chicagoland area, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM. Thank you so much. Down on our river rats down in Evansville, listening on ESPN, the Ref, 97.7, always the right call. Got them all over the place. Trace Jackson Davis wins the Karl Malone Award for the best power forward, as Zach Edey wins the Oscar Robertson Award, which is the Player of the Year. Oscar Robertson, of course, from Indiana. Pretty cool that 2 of the 5 major awards, they have an award for each position. Bob Cousy, Jerry West, Karl Malone, Oscar Robertson, and I am missing 1. But guys from Indiana got 2 of those, so that's pretty cool. You know what? The Indiana women's team ought to be pretty damn good next year. So you got that to look forward to. In addition, tonight we're going to preview the men's game between UConn and San Diego State University tonight. Marijuana has been removed from the NBA drug testing. No more penalties, no more penalization on that. Each player, which is rightfully so. It's like, gee whiz. It's like having speeding on there. It's like getting in trouble for having a speeding ticket. Let's see. Here's some big news for NBA players and their new NBA players agreement, Players Association, NBA Players Association agreement. Players can now invest in or promote NBA, WNBA teams, but not only that, bigger than that, cannabis and sports betting companies. So not only is marijuana no longer going to be tested or you have to worry about it, you can own a damn pot store. That is just what cracks me up about how we move as a society. We don't just like go from here to take a step. We go and jump like a mile. So not only have they removed the criminalization, hell, you can sell it. It's crazy. Which I'm not against it. It's because they've held off. Boys, Americans, I think, overall, we hold off on stuff that is stupid for so long, and it's like a rubber band until when it finally breaks. Not only does it take the stupidity that should have been passed, but then you've got to catch up with so much. And you can equate that exactly to the NCAA. For so long, they fought and fought and fought the ability of players to make money on their own name, to be able to transfer, to do things like that. And look what happened. It all hits at the same time at 100 miles an hour because they fought it and they fought it and they fought it until it exploded. That's why you have to deal with things. The NCAA did not. They just kept kicking the can down the road. And when I say the NCAA, people really need to understand that is you should not hear that acronym and not think of all the schools, including Indiana. All of the schools, they are responsible. They are the NCAA. They are the ones that kicked this down the road. They are the ones that put the sport in the position that it is in now. So that's who you blame. And when people say, well, I don't like this, I don't like that, well, that's fine, but it's not changing.
Break.
Not going anywhere. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, our good friend Dustin Dopirak will join us. We'll catch up with him, see what he's been up to.
We have one more segment by ourselves, so I want to clarify that. Then Dustin Dopirak will be with us.
Oh, all righty then. Well, there's that. So we're back with more. Plenty to talk about. Prayers for Coach Bob Knight. Before I go to break, we'll talk more about that. But Coach Knight apparently went into the hospital on Friday. A letter was sent out to players to pray for Coach Knight and hope that he would get well and return home soon. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. But lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from BB's Market. Stop by. They're your butcher, your baker, no matter where you live, with the absolute best in custom meats and a full-size bakery, in addition to the Butcher's Cut coming soon, restaurant next door. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
All right. Dustin Dopirak's 9:10, and then he'll be with us till Tom Crean comes on.
What'd you say?
I just said Dustin Dopirak will join us at 9:10, not 8:50, and he'll be with us till Tom Crean comes on.
Does he normally join at 9:10?
It's usually 9:20, but now that we don't have Don Fisher anymore, I pushed him up. So because we don't have that adjusted schedule anymore.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I forgot. I'm going to try to get somebody to fill that slot. Oh, Pete, there's a lid that I found that fits another cup that fits this, but it's perfect. And it's lovely. Oh, while we're off the air, I'll ask you peeps. Hey, I think everybody keeps asking. I think we're going to try to get some merchandise stuff, things like this, T-shirts, hats. Is that something that you guys would be interested in? If not, we're not going to mess too much with it. But we had a lot of people ask about it. So, cheers.
Cheers.
You can have everybody, if everyone that's subscribed, that would be great. And I got a bigger question because we're working on things to try to have a couple different monthly show or weekly shows throughout the month. Listen, I'm talking to you people.
Quickly, with 30 seconds. No, hold on. We only have 30 seconds. We only have 10 seconds. We can talk about it later.
And will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Monday, April 3rd. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you as always. Hope everybody is having a great day. I checked the weather forecast. It's that's a wonky one. I just usually just go to Alexa. Alexa, what's the weather forecast? Expect sunshine and thunderstorms. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, what the hell is that? Sunshine and thunderstorms. I'm like,
down here where I'm at, tomorrow we're going to hit 80 degrees for the first time this year, which is crazy to think about.
Nobody cares about you. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Nobody cares about 80 degrees I'm at. I'm just being kidding, jealous. Nobody cares about your 80-degree temperature. 80, that's nuts. 80. What, is it going to be sunny?
I think it's sunny until the cold front moves in that evening, and then it's going to rain and bring in the.
Whoa! So you got 80, then a cold front coming?
Well, it's at night though, so you're going to get the 80 during the day.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, April brings the showers and the warmer temperatures.
Oh, all right. We have the final results.
Oh yeah, the Pete Clausen NCAA Tournament Challenge.
Yeah. This was a close match that both the top two finishers had Alabama winning it. And Superfan G-Man is the winner. He beat Pete by 20 points. So congratulations. That's pretty cool. I'm looking down through there. There was a ton of people in there. You guys did a great job. Because a lot of them were close. Good job, everybody. We'll have to find out who that actually is. And get them a little prize package sent out. Get that put together. So congratulations, Super G-Man. Superfan G-Man. You did it. He was the winner. That was a hard bracket to win, man. If you could say you won the NCAA tournament bracket this year, and the fact that that's before the championship game is played because it's not going to affect this bracket. Looking forward to that. How many watched the championship game yesterday between Iowa and LSU? Did you see the freaking size that LSU had? They had a girl that was 6'7". What are you going to do with that?
I guess hope that you have somebody who's 6'8", right? But I guess they didn't.
My God. They're just big. Caitlin Clark had a good game, but it's just a lot. But congratulations to LSU. They win their first national championship in men's or women's basketball. Tonight, the men go at it. UConn and San Diego State University. Who's your pick there? I mean, UConn is the overwhelming favorite.
I tell you what, quickly on both teams, UConn has absolutely dominated every single team they played in this tournament, and that's just crazy to think about. As somebody as a team who was only a 4 seed,
it's crazy to think about in this tournament because nobody has dominated anybody throughout the tournament except for UConn.
A lot of people, including myself, tend to forget that UConn, for 2 weeks this season, was the number 2 team in the country back in December.
Well, they also played in the Big East.
They do. They play in the Big East. The reason that they kind of fell away from that, they lost, I believe, 6 or 7 in a row in January, and so they just kind of fell off the map a little bit. It was somewhere between 5 or 6 or 7 wins or losses in a row, in which kind of had them fall out a little bit. But they rallied. I believe they won the Big East tournament this year. Kind of reminiscent, honestly, of the championship that UConn won back in what was it when Kevin Ollie was head coach? Because they got on a run, won the Big East championship, and then won the entire thing. So anyway, and then on the flip side, man, I know Indiana fans are disappointed that Florida Atlantic couldn't pull off the upset, if you want to call it that, at this point in the tournament. But I mean, ice in his veins, Mr. Lamont Butler, I believe that's his name, being able to hit that shot as the buzzer goes off to get San Diego State in the championship. I got to say, though, of all of the teams in the Final Four, San Diego State is just the most boring. They're just the least exciting to watch. They kind of remind me of Wisconsin and Virginia, the way that they play. And I mean, obviously we've seen Virginia win a championship like that. We've seen Wisconsin get to a championship game like that. And now we're seeing San Diego State get to a championship game like that. So, I mean, it's not like it's something that's never happened before, but I think people are just less excited to see teams that play a boring style of basketball in the championship game. I mean, this game, if it plays out the way San Diego State wants it to play out, this game will be in the 50s.
Speaking of Florida Atlantic, gosh dang it. Yeah, losing on a last second shot. I don't know. Has that ever happened in the Final Four? Villanova kind of won it. But
that was the championship.
Yeah, as did Keith Smart, has done it in the so it doesn't happen very often, but man, oh man, are those exciting.
I hate to bring Kentucky into it, but I remember when they had the Harrison twins and they went on that run to play against UConn in the national championship. I believe one of them, I don't know if it was in the Final Four, but they hit a buzzer beater.
Well, that's fine. They lost, so that's okay.
Yeah.
They got beat by UConn, as a matter of fact. That was a surprising run. But, what was I saying? Yeah, Dusty May. Gosh, dang it. Dang it. Dude, that close to playing in the national championship game. Are you kidding me?
I tell you, they just, if you watch the
free
game,
throws.
Well, free throws, they couldn't get rebounds. They couldn't get a single rebound. And the one time that they did late in the game, John L. Davis, I believe is his name, he throws an outlet pass out of bounds and gives it right back to San Diego State.
From Gary, Indiana, John L. Davis. Gary, Indiana.
Disappointing for Florida Atlantic. And another thing too, I think this was announced over the weekend, right? He's going to be at Florida Atlantic again next year, correct?
Let's get ready to talk about that. He will be staying in place, not going anywhere. Everyone wondering because he could have written his own ticket, but this is an odd year. There are not that many jobs out there. I mean, it seems like you can count them on one hand of the jobs that have come and gone already. Penn State, Texas Tech,
St. John's, Georgetown,
Ole Miss. I mean, but they were all boom, boom, boom. I mean, Ole Miss made a quick run at Chris Beard, St. John's, boom, Rick Pitino. Some of those were just wrapped up already and not leaving bigger spots behind. So there wasn't really a good job for him to go to. But if he was in Minnesota someplace, that would probably be bad, but he's not. He's in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, he's going to sign a new deal. It's not going to be it's going to be a deal that pays him over $1 million a year, which
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, how many programs
in the grand scheme of things, that's not huge, but
yeah,
because he only makes $450,000 a year right now, but it will be a substantial raise for him. He'll be more than comfortable because he's going to more than double his income. He was probably already comfortable. Doesn't have to move. He's in South Florida and obviously can put a team together there. And that's going to bring more people there. And I think that will probably open the eyes up of other players and said, hey, you know what? I don't have anything against going down to South Florida and playing, hooping it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, the fact that a coach like him at a school like Florida Atlantic making a run to the Final Four and you get to retain him, that is something that is not heard of. And obviously, like you said, it's just a weird circumstance. There's not a plethora of job openings right now this season, but like good job openings. And so I won't say it worries me because I'm sure he'll still be successful after this season, but he is as hot as he'll ever be right now on the coaching market. And if he has a disappointing year next year and he's looking to eventually move on to something bigger, which I'm sure somebody like Dusty May would be, he's not going to have the options in the future if he's not able to at least, like, he doesn't have to make the Final Four every year, but he needs to continue to make Florida Atlantic a Conference USA power if he wants to look ahead to the future at a bigger program like that.
Well, he won't have to worry about making him at a Conference USA power because he's moving over.
That's right. Where are they moving to?
They're moving over to what's the conference?
Is the American Athletic Conference?
I think it is the AAC.
So that is a step up, though. It's definitely, they're going to be they're no longer going to be in a one bid league. That's good.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, they're going to be in a much tougher league. Houston and who else is in
Houston's moving. Houston's not a part of it, though. Houston's moving to the Big 12. And so is Cincinnati.
Huh.
So, yes, it is a jump ahead from Conference USA, but the American is losing two of its biggest powers. I think you'll still have Memphis, though. I believe Memphis is in the American. You'll have Temple, who's in the American, I believe. So you'll have a couple of decent teams in there. I think SMU also in the American Athletic Conference. So again, it's a step forward, but it's a baby step forward, especially when you're losing Houston and Cincinnati.
Baby steps, baby, baby steps. Twice over the last several days I've been asked about, hey, how'd you get through the storms? I'm like, what storms? Which is funny. That's the only time I got to sleep, I guess, is when we were having storms. But I love a good storm. Who doesn't love a good storm?
I tell you what, that is one thing. I really hate the rain during the day, but if I'm trying to sleep, I don't really mind the rain. It really helps.
What are some questions that you might have for Coach Tom Crean? I've already got a bunch. Normally, I do not write out questions. That's the one thing I don't do with guests. I don't write questions out because I just let the conversation go where it goes. But with sometimes with certain people, I do write a few things out, and with Coach Tom Crean, I have just certain things I don't want to miss to ask, and about what's going on in his world, this tournament. Is this the new norm? Which who was it that said that they thought that this was like kind of a blip year? And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think you're always going to have, now you may not have this many, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State. Well, hell, I guess all of them are really underdogs. You're not going to, I just don't think this is going to be, I think this is going to be part of the norm. I think it's a little further than what we're going to see in the future. You're not going to see every number one team get knocked out every year, because there'll be a number one team for a reason. But I think people get enamored with teams, and Purdue was one of those teams people got enamored with from outside. They got enamored with Zach Edey and enamored with Purdue, and they just weren't that good of a team. Indiana wasn't great, but they were better than Purdue. National, the outside, they just got swept up in that. And that's part of this is just people getting just swept up and that team's great. Well, they're not. So it's going to be interesting. The seeding, there were some teams that were seeded. Miami, probably not seeded quite right. They were way better than what they were seeded. But that's going to happen a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see what next year's tournament is like. Is it going to be the same as this? Or is it going to be what I think? And I think you're going to see more of a mix of what we saw this year with just less of it, with more of the higher seed teams getting through. So I think you're going to see more upsets, not more than this year. You're going to see less, but more than what we were used to. And it's just going to be a mix of the better teams and upsets. And I think that's a perfect recipe if that were to happen and come to fruition. That would be just a beautiful thing. I mean, we almost had another iteration of the movie Hoosiers. FAU was this close. I mean, if they didn't have Buddy, if San Diego State didn't have Buddy on their team, if they didn't have Bobby Plump on their team, then FAU would be going to the national championship game. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and daggone it, I hate that for Dusty. What a great run. But, the thing that watching him throughout that tournament is how calm he was the whole time. He was the calmest coach in the deal. And you want to talk about Coach Bob Knight's coaching tree, man, those are the ones that are the great ones. You think of Mike Krzyzewski. Dude was calm as, he was ice water. And guys that are like that are smart, that have the knowledge, that have the ability to take the knowledge that they've been given and that they've learned and build upon, but to have that kind of a very low-key personality, those are winners. Because you stay calm, you keep your team calm, you're able to make better decisions in times of stress and strain, while everyone else their mind's running ragged. Those guys are thinking 2 steps ahead. That's what Bob Knight did. He was 2 steps ahead. And not everybody's able to do that, but Dusty May seems to have that. Looking forward to talking to him again soon. We'll see if I can get him on either this week or next. We've got to take a break. Up next, Dustin Dopirak joins us. Looking forward to talking to DD. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Go Team.
You can pick those up or order online. GoTeamBites.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether
All right.
All right.
All right. Dustin Dopirak should be on here shortly.
Well, that's good to know.
That's so good. I'm the lollipop. I'm in the lollipop guild.
I'm the lollipop. You were right. There was a stretch where UConn lost like 4 of 6.
4
Right,
of 6, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You were right. There was like a stretch where they lost, but they lost. They lost.
Good morning, Mr. Dopirak.
Good morning, Jim. Who lost? What are we talking about?
Talk about UConn, how they lost 4 of 6 back in January.
It was
Yeah.
actually.
We are in break, by the way, just to clarify.
Oh, okay. All right. I was willing to just roll right in.
He's a professional.
We didn't need an intro. I was hitting up the Google machine and hitting up Ken Palm, and I will hit up Ken Palm anyway because I guess we'll just talk about that.
Dude,
Where are you at today, Dustin?
I am in gorgeous Cleveland, Ohio. I will tell you, Cleveland's pretty when there's actually when the sun's out and it's not cloudy and whatnot.
Is it right on the lake or whatever?
It is right on the lake.
Of course it is.
Yeah. It's like Cleveland and Milwaukee, I think, are very similar in that like you come here half the time and it's just fogged in and you can barely see anything. But when the lights shine on, you're like, whoa, okay, this is actually not bad. And the hotels are cheap and you can stay downtown and it's nice. You can stay downtown without too much problem.
I've never been there.
It's a good town. Yeah, I mean, I've never really
past
done
it, but
it.
not
I've
like
done just
through
these
it.
2 games or 3 games.
Wait a minute. Where are you?
In Cleveland.
Oh yeah, I've been there tons of times. What am I talking about?
I was gonna say
What do you think we were talking about?
I was thinking
Milwaukee, maybe, or somewhere else.
yes, Milwaukee. But I've never been to Milwaukee.
Okay, gotcha.
I can't believe because it's not like it's that far away. It's just
It's only like an
you
hour
don't
or
have a
so
reason
from
to go
Chicago,
there.
right?
What's up?
It's only like an hour or 2 from Chicago, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's less than 2. It's maybe. I mean, Chicago obviously feels like just depends on how long you're actually in Chicago on the way through. When does Chicago actually end?
hey, we're almost heard.
Milwaukee is the answer. You're
We're
damn
almost
near.
heard in Wisconsin, Dustin.
What's up?
We're almost heard in Wisconsin.
Is that right? I can
And
believe
possibly at night we probably are.
it's true.
We're on
It makes a difference. It's like you can hear the
We're on-
Chicago beat. There is a
we're on
bell.
we're on
on
an
like
AM
tonight.
AM FM station, but the AM,
Yeah.
those will carry,
All right, here we
especially
go, guys.
across that lake.
Yeah, let's do it.
extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday, April 3. Cannot believe we're that far along in spring. Speaking of spring and sunshine, Dustin Dopirak joins us.
And I bring both of those things every day. You know that.
Every day, baby. That's what I was thinking of exactly. Did you get a chance to watch? I'm sure you did. But with your duties, that's not always the case. The men's semifinal games on Saturday.
I did. I was at a social engagement, so I was not as locked in as I might have ordinarily been. But yeah, no, obviously got to see the buzzer beater by Lamont Butler for the
Butler did it.
Yeah, that was one heck of a play, and especially when you keep looking at just how close he was to stepping out of
line.
Yeah,
Oh.
all the change of direction there, and just
Can you imagine had he hit that shot
and they reversed
and
it?
they review it and they
I can't imagine it. I don't want to imagine it. I don't want to consider that because it would have just it would have sucked, and we would have had this whole discourse about whether or not.
But then you would have sent. But then it would have sent Dusty May to the championship game.
That's fair. I don't know Dusty May. I've only read everything about how wonderful Dusty May is this week. I don't know him. I never crossed paths with him, and he's a good dude by all accounts. But yeah, no, that would have been something, and we would have actually absolutely spent like the entire week on this discourse of whether or not we should have replay, and we would have to talk about it in every sport, and whatnot, and what it's taken from us, and all that sort of thing. But I'm glad he stayed in bounds, so that we don't have.
I have seen several games that the very end, when everybody's wanting to celebrate. Mm-hmm. You hear whistles blowing, stopping.
Sure. Yeah.
So they can review for the next 5 minutes, and then it's like it's not the same, man. It's like
it costs you something, but they get it right.
Oh,
yeah, they get it right, and more often than not, and obviously there have been times when they haven't gotten it right, and there have been times when the review has been unnecessary. On balance, when it's your team, you would rather get it right. Like whether you're a player, a coach, a fan, or whatever it is, you'd like to get it right. And I think, we've been watching these replays long enough that like how many that they have missed blatantly on the field. And then you see the review and it's just obvious. It's like, oh, okay, well, they're going to change that. And you even see the replay for yourself, and then you you're watching the game, and then you go get a drink or whatever because you see the first replay and it's like, oh, that's a sure thing. Like I don't even have to worry about that one. And so think about how many bad calls would not have been reversed, and how different things could be. End of the day, on balance, I take the replay 1,000 times over. I mean, obviously you wish that everybody was perfect and they got it right on the field the first time, but they're not. They're very much not. And you're asking a lot from people. To be as perfect as we asked them to be for the first however many years of sports, to try to get all these calls right without the addition of video replay. I just think, how many times that call gets wrong at first base, when the guy beat it out and he didn't. That's a different inning. How many times are changed because they run the replay and they find out the guy absolutely did have his foot on the bag before the ball got there. So how many things get stolen? I understand that it hurts the product on some level, but the product is better when you're right. It just is, end of the day. And so we're all better off if that kid stayed in bounds, I think.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Of course, it would have been great to see Dusty May and the Hoosiers story continue. That would have been like the second iteration of the Hoosiers back when that shot of Butler's almost went in. Right. And I said earlier, unfortunately, in this case, Bobby Plump was on the wrong team. So if he doesn't hit that shot, then it worked out for them. But just an incredible run. And then, of course, Dusty is going to stay. It was announced at FAU. He's just going to re-sign a long-term deal there. This is an odd year. Not the tournament was odd, but normally they are just a plethora of jobs available, Dustin. And this was an odd year where it seems like you could almost name Penn State, Texas Tech, St. John's, Ole Miss. There were just not that many jobs that came open, of course, and high-profile jobs from that matter. And Dusty is going to stay where he is, which is not a bad thing. He gets to stay in Boca Raton in South Florida. He doesn't have to move. He's going to make more money, and life will be grand for him.
Yeah, a bunch of jobs came open and they all moved quickly, and they were all probably smart to do so on the basis of what they wanted. End of the day, in a few of those cases, it's jobs that were like Texas obviously was open, but that guy did way too well to not get his job. Take that gig. And obviously, like you have recently had the the really big jobs have been just passed along and kept in the family. Obviously, last year or a couple years ago, it was within the last 2 years, it was Duke and Carolina, obviously, and them deciding they were going to stay and keep it in house. Carolina with Hubert Davis and Duke with John Shire, and then Syracuse going the same route. Going from Jim Boeheim to Adrian Autry. Those jobs would have been a big deal if they came open, but they're not messing around over there. But yeah, every other gig that came open they had a sense of what they wanted, and they weren't waiting to see who the hottest name was going to be. You know, I mean, like, like Notre Dame taking Micah Shrewsbury was, I think, an obvious call. You know, like that made a lot of sense to me. And if you're, frankly, if you know, I'm a Penn State grad, I obviously do not have the best things to say about that men's basketball job. And if, you know, again, if I were Micah, I would have left and gone Notre Dame. And if I were Dusty May, I would not take the Penn State job. I would hold out for better, because you can get it. Again, if you can, you know, if you can get a Final Four that way. I mean, look, you know, here's another, for instance. I mean, Jim Larrañaga takes George Mason to the Final Four. He waited until he had a job that he really wanted, and now he's in the Final Four with Miami. You know, he didn't jump at the first thing that was available. He was waiting to see, okay, I feel like I've got a pretty good gig here. I feel like this is a place where I can create a little fiefdom, and, you know, turn this into something and make it become something. I remember just that next year at the Colonial, at the, you know, CAA Media Day. I mean, he was just holding court. And a year prior, before they went to the Final Four, I mean, like, you know, there was only maybe 10 or so scribes, you know, in Philly talking to him, and I got an audience with him by myself. You know, that's how much things changed for him in a year. In a year, everybody wanted to talk to him. There was, like, I don't know, 25 people surrounding him at all times in DC. And so, you know, like, Dusty May gets to be an important character next year in Florida Atlantic. He gets to be what in 2024, 2023, 24, what Jim Larrañaga was in 06, 07. And that's not a bad place to be. And again, he can turn that into as big of a job as he wants to down the line. You know, that's still going to carry, that's still going to be there next year. You know, he's still going to have that cachet. So if he gets eliminated early, you know, he's going to have a chance at some of those bigger jobs that might come available. And I have no idea what they might be right now. But like you said, don't weep for Dusty May. He's in good shape.
Well, the sad thing is he's got one of the two best programs in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
That's the good news. The bad news is he's probably 30 minutes away from the best program in Florida right now at Miami, because they're so close. They're so stinking close, which I don't know how much that really matters. It probably doesn't matter at all, to be honest with you, especially for basketball. The numbers are small enough to where
you're going after different kids. You've gotten different kids, you know, I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't know if any of their guys are going to bail, but I mean, isn't there top player Janelle Owens? Or is it Janelle Owens? Hold on a second. Let me make sure.
John L. Davis.
John L. Davis. I think he's a sophomore
from Gary, Indiana, by the way.
That's right. So Elijah Martin's a sophomore. Vladislav Golden's a sophomore. So like three of their most important players have eligibility back, and and more. Nick Boyd, you know, Brian Greenlee's a junior. I mean, like, obviously there's a chance each of those guys are going to jump the ship, because, you know, they'll have people looking at them. But if they don't have a bunch of guys leave, you know, they got a chance of running this back. You know, and so obviously it's still tough to, you know, this tournament was wacky, and, you know, I mean, they did it as a 9 seed, and, you know, you have no guarantee that you can, you know, that you can double that up. But Butler did it, and, you know, how'd Brad Stevens end up hanging around? You know, how'd that work out for him? You know,
I was thinking about that very thing. Sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, it could be a very similar scenario where, you know, he could turn that into something even bigger than we're thinking about right now. I mean, and you know, obviously Stevens really set the bar. That's as high as you can go, you know, to go from that's the biggest leap that you can make, to go from Butler to sitting in Red Auerbach's chair. You know, there's no bigger leap than that. There are other jobs in the NBA that you could argue are bigger. The Lakers being one of them, just by virtue of you're in that spotlight, and you know, for the time being, you'd be coaching LeBron James. But as far as jobs that somebody would leave, and I don't think Steve Kerr's going anywhere from Golden State, Boston's about as big a leap as you can make. And so if you're Dusty May, like, that's a model at this point. You know, if you can keep these guys around, turn them into another really good season, if you only lose maybe 1 or 2, and you go back, you know, you got a chance to make a giant leap. So the fact that he didn't, you know, bust tail out of Boca Raton for the first job available does not cut off a lot of his big job opportunities. You know, again, unless something goes horribly wrong, like, that involves like scandal and outright mutiny, he's going to get a big job next year if he wants it.
Yeah, I think that he's just going to stick around. I think he likes it where he is. Plus,
good place.
Here's this. I don't know what to call it, anomaly or carrot that will be dangling out there somewhat. Mike Woodson is only going to be at IU for, let's say, 2 to 3 more years. I do not see. I don't see him here for past 3 more years, unless they just start having so much success with the portal that the recruiting is not as difficult, because the portal is easy. You get a guy out of the portal, and that's like pour water on player. Let's go, ready to play. The recruiting, you've got the freshman, unless they're a 5-star like Jalen Chifino. You've got development. You're going to wait, and waiting is not great anymore in college basketball. It's a 2-year turnover. Boom, 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 boom. It's going to be very interesting to see what they finish up with in the portal now. And people like Caleb Love. Caleb Love he's made it no secret that the team he wants to go to is a team that can compete for a national title. Is Indiana is that Indiana right now? I don't know how you can say that. No. So they still have 3 holes to fill. So I don't know how quickly that Caleb Love is going to be making a decision, and that will, I don't know if that puts Indiana's not going to let that dictate what they're doing. They're going to try to do what they're doing as quickly as possible, I'm sure, but I don't know where that falls in line with Caleb Love's decision-making process.
And I don't love Caleb Love for this, for where
and a lot of people don't.
I don't love them for where they sit. I mean, when he's really good, he's ball dominant, and it's like, okay, do you really want him competing with X, and because
would they be competing or just?
You could move them
while
off,
not playing at the same time.
You could move them off the ball. I mean, you could play them at the same time, and obviously, they basically last year what Carolina did well. I mean, it was supposed to be. Him at the 1 and RJ Davis at the 2. I mean, that's what it seemed like it really fit to me, because Indiana wanted both of those guys. So I remember watching them back in summer of 2019, back before we lost the ability to go see AAU ball for a while. But I was really impressed by each of those guys, and they're different players, but they were both at EYBL up at Westfield. And I was impressed by each of those guys, because Davis could really, really fill it up, and he was playing on Ethan Morton's team. And then Love was just a star on that group from St. Louis, who's Brad Beal elite. But it seemed like when they got really good was when Love was operating off the ball and he was making a ton of shots. But I would be just surprised if he doesn't come in and just sort of take over. He could just be really, really good when he's ball dominant. And Xavier Johnson likes to be ball dominant. So, I mean, you could put them on the floor at separate times. You could put them on together. But I think that's going to be more of a battle and harder to sort of, make work than Johnson and Hood-Schifino was, because Hood-Schifino was a freshman and just getting a sense of what he was supposed to be. And then when he had to take over, he did. But I think Love is going to want to be a ball dominant guard. And on the flip side of that, you're also bringing in Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton, and you've got CJ Gunn and these dudes who need the ball to develop, to become whatever that is they're going to become. I mean, they cannot just sit and watch 2 vets, pass the ball back and forth or dribble 100 times. I mean, these guys need to become involved, and, again, turn into what they're going to be, and have some real responsibility, basically this season. I mean, they don't have to start, they don't have to play every game. But, these dudes need something. Caleb Banks, needs to have the ball in his hand sometime, like you can't have those 2 guys, just drawing all the oxygen out of the joint. And I think you could have that basically, and lose an opportunity to turn those guys into some really good players. So I would say they need to look for guys that they need scorers, don't get me wrong. But they could use a scorer who doesn't need the ball in his hand all the time.
We've got plenty more to talk about. I want to
bring up Jim Larinaga. Speaking of him, how about the coaching job that he's done? I mean,
Amazing.
It is great job. Indiana's needs. We'll talk about that. I think that they desperately need a wing, another mobile big, and a 2-guard. But we'll debate that and much more. Dustin Dopirak with the Indy Stars with us. We can't get enough. We're back with more right after this.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the Hey, did you ever talk to your wife?
I always talk to my wife. I forgot what I was supposed to ask her.
Her favorite restaurant.
I talk to my wife all the time. I promise.
I figured it was just like a once a week thing. You check in.
She's upstairs. We sleep. I sleep on the couch. She sleeps in the bed. Just every once in a while, I go in.
Sends a text. I just got a text message.
I did.
Hey, what's for breakfast?
My apologies. I will check in with her when I get home.
No big deal. No big deal. I just want to get.
Yeah.
Or if I can ever get up to Evans or up to Indy, I'm wanting to come to some Pacer games now that this season is over.
There's only 2 left, and they'll be easy. They'll be very easy to acquire tickets. I promise. They are mathematically eliminated as of today.
Who do they play last? Who's the last 2 teams they play?
The Knicks on Wednesday and the Pistons on Friday, and that one, let me tell you, is going to be something.
Who on Friday?
The Pistons, the basement dwelling Pistons.
Boy, that'll be a match for the ages.
We'll. That is going to get in price of that one. They'll pay you to come to that one.
Who will be at that game?
Jaden Ivey's mom, probably. If Jaden's playing, I'm not.
You'll
even
be
sure.
there. Kristen Airy will be there.
Yep. Tony East will be there. We're playing out the string, man. We are playing out the string. I will say this though. I mean, I'm writing all these stories that say that you should come because they don't. They are playing like they still care. You know.
Jay Henderson, New Jersey. You're the first New Jersey I think that I've seen. So welcome.
New Jersey is a wonderful state. I know wonderful people from New Jersey.
Oh, I know plenty. Yeah.
And I know wonderful bands from New Jersey. More than the point that I know people, I know wonderful bands from New Jersey.
Why is it?
The boss, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Springsteen and everybody who likes Springsteen out of Jersey is a great band. Just saying. Anyway.
Yeah, that is the first New Jersey
How about
I've seen.
Interesting.
So we may be up to like 48 states. Man, we may be getting up to the lower. All of them.
Yeah, 48 states. Do you do well in the Big Sky area? That's the place where I feel like I can't touch. Like I don't even know what those people do out there. Montana, Wyoming.
I thought you were bad at. You had a bad reputation in Manhattan, Kansas, with their fans at least, right?
They love me. Come on, they love me. They think they hate me, but they love me.
It's like the Michigan State Dan Dockich relationship.
Exactly.
Or I guess I could say, or I guess I could say
guys.
any school, probably. A coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast, Market, and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It is April 3rd. Dustin Dopirak joining us as he always does so courteously. He is traveling. Where are you right now?
Wonderful Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, that's right.
On the banks of Lake Erie. So, on the shore.
You know, I remember seeing a baseball game there years ago, and daggone it, they were playing Boston. Your cousin from Boston. I can't not say that every time I hear Boston now.
It's a great commercial. Great.
It is. I love
really
it.
Is.
I mean, it's a worm that I just walk around the house and just go, your cousin from Boston.
And they nail Boston people. They absolutely nail Boston people.
Oh.
They really do.
Where are you? Are you originally from Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh, yeah, half hour east.
I was going to say, if you
Half
weren't
hour
from
east.
Pittsburgh, I could see you as being a Bostonian.
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, there's distinct differences, and I think if you tell a lot of Pittsburgh people, particularly Penguins fans, who would have to deal with, and Steelers fans to some extent, but probably Penguins fans more directly would be angry about that assessment that we're like Boston. But we have similarities. It's very provincial in the same way that, like, if you grow up there, you don't want to leave. You know, like that's very Boston and very Pittsburgh, is that you, if you are from there, it is a certain collection of ethnicities, and it is people that generally just love the place, are obsessed with the sports teams, do not want to leave, you know, are in the same neighborhood that their granddaddy was. You know, that's very, very Pittsburgh and very Boston.
I'm kind of Pittsburgh heavy on the show. I noticed, especially in the early part of the week. You got you tomorrow. We got Mike DeCourcy, Mr. Pittsburgh.
Me and Mike grew up 50. I mean, obviously we didn't grow up at the same time, but Mike's high school is about 15 minutes from my high school.
And when I was in college, one of my roommates was from Pittsburgh.
Right?
And of course, Mark Cuban from Pittsburgh, and that where he's from?
Mark Cuban is from Pittsburgh. I think he's Mount Lebanon. So Mike DeCourcy is Elizabeth Forward. If you talk to him again, salute him from me. He's been good to me through the years and been good to all of us Yinzers in sports media. And so we, everybody, but he's particularly, I think, I'd like to think he's taking a shine to us fellow Yinzers. So I always have appreciated Mike. He's really been great to me. So,
he's on each Tuesday with us. So he'll be on tomorrow, but
Mike's the best.
And then Greg, I can't think of his last name, is the football SID at Penn State. It was a former SID here. Daggone, I can't think of his last name. He was doing baseball last at IU before he left, but he's the football SID at Penn State now.
I should know who that is.
You do, and I can't. It's just the fact that I'm blanking on his last name right now. But that's another thing. Indiana has SIDs all over the country. The SID for Penn State football came from Indiana. The SID for Memphis basketball came from Indiana. The SID for Arizona basketball came from IU. And there was one other, but then you've got Pat Kraft and Chris Reynolds.
Yeah.
Pat Kraft is at Penn State. Damn.
Yep. That's probably why his sports information director is from Penn State, most likely.
Well, I think that he went there before Pat, didn't he?
Might be. When I find out who this is, I'm going to be really mad at myself. And
man,
then, but yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's media and production. So, but yeah, no, it certainly it works well. But no, I mean it was entertaining to see Pat work a room back in Greg Kincaid. Okay, Greg, I didn't know.
Greg Kincaid.
Greg. Yeah. Pat Donguy is still there. Good for him. Pat Donguy was the men's basketball SID when I was there. Now he's at wrestling. He's still there. Good for him. Anyway, but point of the matter, yeah, good people out there. So, all right, what are we moving on to next? What's our next?
Indiana desperately needs in the recruiting world. I don't know how much they're chasing Caleb Love. You just mentioned your thoughts on that. I don't know how much it
might be more of a hat in the ring type thing. Maybe he really liked it because, I mean, obviously Archie was going after him. Maybe it's a place that he's got some level of connection from. But I just have a hard time seeing it. I mean, they need scoring, but they could use the scorer. Again, presuming X is coming back, presuming X gets his 6-year medical. I just think they could use if they're going to get a guard, and I think they could use a guard. I think they could use a guard that's more that can move without the ball, and doesn't have to have the ball in his hands a lot to score it. Just basically have some knockdown shooting, somebody that can score off the dribble. Not somebody who's I don't think they need another Miller Kopp exactly. Maybe they could use one, but I mean, they could just as easily use a 2-guard who can get his own, and you don't have to draw up plays for him to get it. That he can beat you off the bounce, but just has to be somebody who doesn't need it all the time. I think that's just a balance. Basically, just needs to be sort of a two guard in the middle of that spectrum. Basically, again, somebody that can beat you off the bounce but doesn't need to have the ball all the time and dribble it 100 times. Because I don't think you want to just totally negate X's his abilities, and you don't. I don't think when X comes off the floor, you want to take too much away from Gabe Cupps. You do have Trey Galloway, who's going to be able to beat you off the dribble, so that helps. And I do think.
So do you think Trey Galloway really can beat people off the dribble?
I've seen him beat people off the dribble for 3 years. Yeah. I mean, it's a different sort. It's a getting downhill with authority, but yeah, I absolutely, like he's not crossing you up and setting you up with 3 different dribbles, but he makes one move and goes. But yeah, no, I mean, he's really good off the bounce,
Do you think that he is going to, and I do, just because of from what we've seen from Mike Woodson in his first 2 years, he is a guy that sticks with his veterans. So it's going to be hard for someone to move Trey Galloway off of that number 2 starting spot next year, I think.
I think Trey's going to get minutes, and I don't think Trey is guaranteed a starting job. I mean, yes, he gives them at, but one, he can play the 3. You can play them the 2 or the 3, and you can play him at the 1. I mean, he can handle any of those positions because he can guard any of those positions. Heck, you could play him at the 4 if you needed to. He could defend the 4 if you absolutely needed to. He's got enough size. I mean, if you wanted to go really small, you could do that. So Galloway can play anywhere you want him to. But I don't think Galloway is I don't think you have to give him that much deference that he has to start. He hasn't started his whole career, throughout his whole career. It's not like he's been that. He can absolutely be a super sub for you. I mean, is he going to get 20 minutes a night? Yeah, he's going to get 20 minutes a night. No matter what they end up doing here, he's going to get 20 minutes a night. So they're not going to run him out. No chance. He is going to play, but I don't think you have to look at it and say, well, that job is anointedly Trey Galloway's job. He is the shooting guard, and there is no one else you could put it to 2. No, you can move him around, and if you play him off the bench, that's fine. He is going to matter, and he's going to be an example. And don't get me Trey Galloway is absolutely an important piece of what Indiana does moving forward, because he is a guy that you're going to be able to point to next year and say, that's how you do it, and that's really, really important for as much turnover as they're going to have. It is critical to have one guy on the team that you can look at and say, that is what we do here. And that's how we operate, and that's how we function. Watch Trey Galloway and see how he, functions as a high level college player, and, hustles and defends and, grinds and everything like that, and plays with intensity all the time. That is a great player to have on your team. If he comes off the bench, that's fine. Different sort of player, different size, but I'm seeing right now how much TJ McConnell is dragging this team along. Not dragging's not fair, because they're not holding back, but guys have grown up because they've watched what TJ McConnell's done on this team. Trey Galloway is going to be that guy in that team. I know that sounds like stereotypes and whatever, but still, those guys grind. There are other players on the Pacers that do as well. And Buddy Hield is the same type of guy. It's a different sort of player, but that having that example matters, and Galloway is going to matter on next year's team.
Hunter Dickinson, the most surprising entrance into the portal, probably.
Makes no sense at all. Makes no sense.
And there's probably something going on with, he probably just did not think he could win at Michigan. Jet Howard left. Maybe maybe there was issue with the coach. I don't know, but he has 2 years of eligibility left on top of that. And what a get that would be. You're talking about a big man that can stretch the floor, that can shoot from range. A lot of Indiana fans, I sent that tweet out yesterday, and they said, oh, no. I'm like, because they're still caught up in antics, I guess. I'm like going, dude, you need to focus on winning. You need to focus on what parts would work. But that would be strange to see him in an Indiana uniform. But boy, would he be a good one.
Yeah, he would. No, Hunter's a heck of a player. And I can't figure out. I guess it's just how he moves. But out of all the bigs who came back last year, I guess Edie you'd put on there too. Trace, Timmy, Baycut, Sheboy, and Hunter. Hunter has the most established outside game. Out of all those guys, he's the one who, proves he can hit a pick and pop three, and has hit a bunch of them and has stuck many of them in Indiana's eye directly. So he gives you a lot of what you need in the modern game. And so nobody's saying no to Hunter Dickinson. You shouldn't. You shouldn't even think twice about taking Hunter Dickinson on your team. I don't know what he wants, I guess. He could go someplace that's already established maybe, and it's going to be a really good team. And so in that case, that wouldn't be Indiana. I don't know what Michigan's looking at, or obviously they're going to lose some players, but they're Michigan. They're going to get players. Juwan Howard's going to be able to recruit just as well, if not almost definitely better than Mike Woodson with a fresh slate. And I don't know if he and Juwan haven't gotten along or whatever. I mean, Juwan's an interesting cat for sure. We've seen, I don't know, the blow-ups and whatnot. But shoot, that dude can play. That dude can really play. And he's annoying. Definitely, you want to talk about trash talk. Hunter's absurd. Hunter's nuts.
I love the trash talk. And I was even starting to say, all right, the Caitlin Clark, I was starting to allow some of that to seek in. She's a little too far over the top for me, because most of the great trash talkers do it without anybody knowing it.
Right. That's true.
I do it on the court with nobody knowing it.
Right. They're just that slick. No one can tell, but 10 years later, you find out what Larry Bird said to you.
Everyone's got
these stories. Larry Bird just eviscerated me.
In a million years, I would have never bet. If you'd have said Larry Bird was the all-time king of trash talk in the NBA, I'd have said there ain't no way.
Yeah,
and he was
100% is.
Ask anybody. Ask Michael Jordan. Ask Magic Johnson. Ask them all. They all have the great stories, and I love hearing. There's nothing I love more than hearing the guys that had it happen to them tell the stories, like right. Xavier McDaniels or whatever. He's laughing. He's like, man, he said he's going to do this. He goes, turn around, he did it. He did it right in my face. But
I think what people don't understand, and I think what I'm clearly seeing in this discourse is that people don't know how much the players actually enjoy it. And they actually respect you if you say stuff like that. They love this stuff. I mean, what you kind of got to be around these guys. They're wired different. They're not wired
it's a competitive thing, that especially when those competitive juices are flowing. Yeah, it's a different mentality.
If you come at them and they don't feel like they have to hold back when they're playing you, they love that. If they feel like they can say whatever they want to say because you're saying whatever you want to say, they love that, because otherwise they feel inhibited. If they feel like they can't make fun of you, or they can't crack at you, or they can't, just talk at you, because you won't do it back, you're just not that type. They almost feel inhibited, you're getting in their way of having a good time. It's part of what they do. They love it. And so it's just it's almost more sportsmanlike to attack each other, because they that's who they are. That is how they're wired. And I think we frequently think that everybody's wired like them. We're not. They have competitive juice that we don't have. That's why they're there.
And you haven't done it, you really just don't understand it. It was funny in Iowa's game with Louisville. I happened to see a clip where Lilith for Louisville, who was a great player, she said something to Clark, and Clark just said, "Shut up, you're down 15."
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've got to take. Yeah, I mean, Kayla's probably over the top, but I'm glad she got it thrown back at her. She'll probably be better at it now.
What's up next for you, Dustin?
Knicks on Wednesday, Pistons on Friday. I'm not going to New York next Sunday, but that will close it out, and then we begin talking about a very, very important Pacers offseason. And they're obviously pretty good shape to start with. Where they stand, but obviously they're going to have lottery ping pong balls. They'll have somewhere between an 11% and a 5% chance of landing the great Victor Wembanyama, and every clip you see from France come from him is more absurd. But if they don't get him, there are still, I think, some important players that they can get. Basically, whether they're 2 or whether they're 10, they have a chance of really helping themselves. I think they're doing a good job, I think, of developing some of the guys they have right now, forcing them to still play these through these games like they matter. and making them grow up, putting them in some tough situations, making Ben Mathurin guard some people. And he's, I think, made some strides in the course of a week just in who he's defending. So, going to follow that string out and then start watching just the roster build and whatnot. And then, but also, not covering as many games, going to begin the more chilled out version of the spring and summer.
Buddy, I can't thank you enough. As always, look forward to it next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. The great Tom Crean joins us next, Coach, right after this, brought to you by Meadowworks Brewing Company.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Tom. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm good. How about you?
Good, sir. Did you finally get home?
Oh yeah, I've been home for a while actually, so I'm good.
Where are you living now?
I live in Florida, Lakewood Ranch, Florida, Sarasota, Florida.
Oh wow,
Right, this is southern Sarasota. We moved here after Indiana and made this our permanent home.
You're obviously familiar with Anna Maria Island right there to your west?
Yeah, I've only been over there once. We go more to Longboat Key and Siesta Key. Obviously, is right there, but no, it's really close. Obviously, so it's all sitting right there. We just don't go over there as much.
Oh yeah, we already chatted about this, but I was going to say, let me know. And the Ugly Group are supposed to be the best restaurant around that area. So
now, Scott,
I haven't been there.
Ownership in it.
Scott is half, and Mike Ross, who's also from up here, own that thing. So it's all Bloomington owned.
Is Scott still coaching at Indiana?
Yeah, he's a part of the baseball team as an advisor. He lives right here on the lake.
Sure. I've been to his house.
Lake Monroe.
So is he with the team on a day-to-day basis?
I don't think so. Whenever I'm out there, I haven't seen him out there. I mean, I see him a lot of other places, but not then. But he probably does things either in the background or when they're inside a lot of it. But I don't see him during games and that sort of thing.
Will you go to the Hall of Fame?
I'm definitely trying to go up there for that. That would be sweet and amazing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That really would. That'll be awesome.
And I was just in Albany for the NCAA tournament, and I was like, man, I should just go up there now, and I could get up there. But
yeah, I've never been there. That would be cool to do. That would be great to do.
1 minute.
So you obviously know Scott, right?
Oh yeah, I know Scott. Yep, I knew him when I was in Milwaukee, and he was with St. Louis.
Oh yeah,
and well, my son used to play for Todd, and Todd's son is Gage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they played on the same baseball team together. So know them well.
Wow. Never surprised. Always ceases.
Yeah, I got to know him. I got to know him in 2002 and 2003, that range back then.
All right, here we go, guys.
With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend and your week is off to a great start. If not, we're going to try to get it headed in the right direction. Jim Coyle with you as always, and very, very fortunate to be joined by Coach Tom Crean. Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm great. It's good to be with you, Jim. Great to be on.
Man, it is great to have you back. Is it nice to not have to stress and worry for a season at least or two at this time of year?
No, not really. I mean, I guess I'm grateful. Like the day before the game and the day of the game, those early mornings, the way I would wake up And as you get older, to me, it didn't get better. It almost got worse. It almost started 2 days before the game. But no, I miss practice a lot. I miss this time of year in the sense, like, we built our team so much in the spring and summer. Like, I miss that. When I watch basketball, I don't miss it because I'm locked into it, either preparing for a game or I'm in the studio or I'm watching it to learn. There's no doubt about that. So I feel good with that because I feel like I'm adding to what I already know all the time, which I think is fun for me because I get a lot of energy from learning. But I absolutely miss making guys better, pushing them, saying, do it again, teaching different things, watching them do things that they're not sure they can do, and then seeing it come alive. But the daily stress of game day, I don't miss that too much right now, but I'm sure I'll feel it again.
So, how are you? What's new in your world? What's going on besides? I know you have done the studio work with ESPN.
I think that's the biggest thing, but it's spending time with our family. Our daughter Ainsley is a junior in high school. She plays tennis, so I try my very best not to miss any of her matches. Our daughter Megan, who graduated from Indiana, is in New York City, and my son Riley, who played baseball and was going to go to Indiana with Chris Lemonis, and then decided not to. When we left, he's actually in video and player development in his first year with the Dallas Mavericks. Awesome. And he gave up baseball after 1 year at Georgia. One of the reasons we moved to Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch here, is because he went to IMG for a year, and he did that, which is in Bradenton. And so we needed a permanent home when we left Indiana. We moved here. We decided to make it our permanent home. And he spent 1 year playing baseball at Georgia, redshirted that year, but he wanted to coach. And so he did a fantastic job for me for 3 years. And then he's in the NBA now, and I think he likes that. But he's destined to coach. There's no doubt about it. He's so much further ahead. He's further ahead of me than probably I was even in my late 20s. I mean, at the age of 23, he's really learned a lot. So it's like that's our time. And then we try to find different things to do. But I just try to keep learning. And that's a big thing for me, because other than that, I'd go nuts. I don't golf. I don't play tennis. I haven't picked up pickleball at a high level. So I need things to do. So a lot of it is continuing to learn and get better in basketball.
Isn't that a requirement? If you're living in Florida, you have to join a pickleball association?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's you go by the courts, and they are rarely, I don't want to say that they're always full, but you can always drive by and there is at least 2 courts full. But tennis is so big. My wife plays a lot of tennis. Like I said, my daughter does. So I enjoy watching them. And I just I'm not into the golf. Sometimes I wish I was. We live on a course here, but I'm not envious and jealous of the people that are playing golf, so I haven't taken it up yet. If that ever happens, then I'll try it.
Well, if you ever have any thoughts of it, just Google some YouTube videos of Bob Knight and trying to play, and that'll just, you'll be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I've played it. I just don't. I've played it in the past. I actually have clubs. I just don't really enjoy it. So I never had the attention span. I never had the patience or the attention span really to stay with it.
It's 5 hours that you've got to. I get it, because when I do get to play, I can't put my phone down because I'm worried something's going to happen, and I'm like always looking. It's like you can't focus, but that's no big deal. How about this year's NCAA tournament? On one side, I think it has been an absolute blast. But I wonder, is this the new norm? Earlier, I said I think that it's going to go back a little bit. I think we're going to see a combination of the good teams, the blue bloods that people want to see, but these roll of upsets, because the portal has really kind of leveled the waters a little bit.
Well, it has, and NIL will continue to do that, but it still comes down to development. It really does. Getting better during the season. And from the chair I sit in, I watch so much basketball. Last spring and summer, I watched so much from the year before. I watched a lot of teams that took their teams overseas this summer. And then you dive into the season, and it still comes down to that. Are guys really getting better? When you look at UConn, they've gotten better all year long. Their players improved from 1 year to the next, and they've improved during the season. And to me, That's what it's about. Our best teams at Indiana made the most improvement, and they just did. I mean, they get better with their offhand. They get better with their footwork. They get better with their shot. They get better with their defensive awareness, with their pressure on the ball. They get better with their rebounding. They stay consistent with their running. I mean, there's so many things that go into improving. And I think the new norm is the teams that truly get better, because it's so hard now, because there are going to be very few teams that 75 to 80% of their team stays together for more than 2 years at a time. You know, Indiana was really an outlier this year, and then they had a couple of good freshmen. They had guys that really came up together, and Purdue had that. And there's certain teams that will have that. The Big Ten maybe has more teams than not in that area. You know, Penn State, not as much. Illinois, not as much. But that's going to get harder and harder, because the portal is going to continue to be a major change. People are going to make decisions for the wrong reasons. And frankly, coaches are going to make decisions for the wrong reasons. And what happens is you can end up real quick getting tricked into signing independent contractors, guys that are really just going to your program to benefit them and not as much benefit your program. And there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a true balance. And when you look at Florida Atlantic, a team that was really young, well, they got better. They got better throughout the season. You can't win those kind of games. San Diego State, from one year to the next, definitely improved. Miami was a great balance of guys that stayed together, new young players, and guys that they spent money on to get from the portal. And they brought it together, right? Like they came together, but that team got better during the year. So that's really what it's going to be, Jim, is the teams that can have a continuous improvement cycle. I don't want to say 52 weeks a year, but it's pretty much 12 months a year. No question about that.
I know people like to see the blue bloods, but having a mix like FAU and Dusty May and what they were almost able to accomplish, I think that is still it was almost a reiteration of Hoosiers, Butler, in a decade, more than a decade ago. But overall, they want to see the Indianas, Kentuckys, Dukes, Kansases playing for this. Doesn't have to be all those, but I think a mix is what they want to see.
Well, I think so, but I think this is the biggest thing that is so crucial moving forward is, do you have a staff? And again, this happens at the highest level, because recruiting and the getting the marquee talent, getting the highly rated talent, it's such a big part of the equation, because it's at the biggest programs. It's a 52-week a year focus of the fan base, right? Who's really developing their players? And that is such a huge part of it. Like, who can get their teams better in the spring and summer? Who can continue to make guys better during the year? And I think what happens is there's going to be a mix. There's absolutely going to be a mix as time goes on, because when you get guys that are really, really hungry, that have a good skill level, that skill level can get a lot better. When you have a group of guys that are not just thinking about their own success, but that can lock into their teammates' success, those teams are going to get a lot better. When you have guys that are not coming in that are really in search of their statistics and in search of their accolades, but understand that really things aren't going to happen for them if the team doesn't win, those teams are going to be playing this time of year. And obviously a lot of things go into that: foul trouble, injuries, referees, calls and non-calls. All those things are always going to play a part in it. But it's the teams that over a period of time that take a lot of interest in their players' personal skill development and building teams to be cohesive because they're unselfish and care about one another. Those are the ones that are going to continue to succeed. Now, I don't think it really matters what level it is.
How difficult is it going to be going for coaches that are not at one of these blue bloods to continue to compete because of the portal, because of NIL? Everyone does not have a John Ruiz alumnus. So, and some programs have not kind of adopted that, although those that haven't are probably doomed to doom themselves. But how difficult now is it on the coach? Because recruiting used to be, you're chasing the freshmen for the most part. Transfers were, if they happen, they happen. But now you may be probably chasing portal players more than freshmen?
Well, I think it's both. I think this is where staff alignment is so important, that you have people not only that can develop the team, but that can really spend time in recruiting. Recruiting more than ever is, and it's always been this way. It's always been this way, but it's more than ever now. And it's about evaluation. And it's truly about evaluating people that fit your coaching style, that fit your head coach, and that fit the way that they want to play. And I think that there's so many different ways to get players, but what hasn't changed is how you win. And there's different ways to win, obviously, but you've got to have a high level of skill. You've got to be able to shoot the ball. You've got to have people that can make stops one-on-one. Well, you've also got to have players that can get something out of nothing, that the play breaks down and they can still get to the bucket, or they can get fouled. You've got to have teams of rebounders. You've got to have guys that in a lot of leagues, the size, the length, like tonight in this UConn San Diego State game, guard rebounds are going to be huge. They're going to be huge because both of these teams are tops in the country at three-point defense. They're both outstanding offensive rebound teams. So there's going to be rebounds maybe that weren't there where you used to maybe getting an open shot, but
Oh, unfortunately, I think Tom's connection cut off there. Hopefully he'll rejoin here in a second. And looking forward to continue our conversation with Coach Tom Crean. We'll probably have to reconnect that, but really enjoying this. I'm trying to look over to see if we've got any extra questions.
Here, if we want to,
take a break.
We can go ahead and take a break while we're trying to reconnect.
Take a break, and we'll get Coach Tom Crean back on with more here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're Did you text him?
I did, yes.
Yeah, that was where I was going next.
I know, I hate that it just kind of cut out like that, whatever that was.
That's right where I was going next. Damn it.
Here he comes.
I have no idea what happened. My Wi-Fi looks good.
That stuff happens all the time. Sorry, we're on a break.
So you're good. We'll just come back in about a minute and a half, and we'll pick up where we left off.
And an FYI, I'll mention to you, Bob Knight was put in the hospital Friday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What did they think it is?
Well, I've not heard anything more. I know a letter was sent out to the players last night advising that they pray for Coach Knight, and hopefully he'll be home soon. But
okay, he's probably with Dr. Rink, right?
Oh yeah. You can. But that was Friday that he went in. I just saw this last night. This just came out last night.
Oh, that's too bad. Had he been getting worse?
They said he was coming to practice once a week, which, when he came back and they did the big thing, you could tell there was moments in that, like when Dick Vitale tried to reach across the table to hug him
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was afraid that was going to turn into something bad, but luckily it didn't.
Well, he's definitely, obviously he's been, I mean, it has to have been deteriorating with.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully it's not at that point. Hopefully maybe it was just some type of sickness and not anything.
Yeah.
Going.
All right, here we go, guys.
In all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants, come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, and we are very, very, very fortunate to be joined by former Indiana coach Tom Crean, as well as Georgia and Marquette. Now, you've been doing the TV gig with ESPN. I think you did that once before, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
But so what is it like sitting in the analyst chair watching these games? Or what are you able to see things differently, learn more, put things and just say, oh wow, and just see it from a different perspective than you would if you were on the court?
I think so. I think it's the preparation going into it. And really when I prepare, it's like I'm preparing. I really do it the same I did as a coach. Like I redo my notes on the day of the game. If it's a later game or if it's a early game, do it the night before, do different things, to prepare for the studio. But I'm looking at, okay, how would I stop the team if I was coaching against them? What are the strengths of the team? Where are guys getting better or not getting better? And then I really try to work, which is different. Like, okay, let's really highlight the excitement of this, or highlight the improvement of this guy, or highlight the great plays. When you're coaching, you don't always lock in as much to the greatness. You're kind of so many times looking for what you've got to do next or preparing for what could go wrong. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. So it's really been good for me. And it's almost like, I'm not trying to carry water for any coach. I'm not trying to carry water for any player. I'm trying to really look at it and say, this is what I see from my experience. This is what I see from my preparation. And this is what I see that's happening in the game. Why is this team winning? And what do they have to do to keep doing that? Why is this team losing? And what do they have to do to overcome that? And I enjoy that, and so it's good for me. I'm not looking for a lot of other people's opinions on what they think about this team or that team, and not talking to the coach about, what they want me to say about their team. That's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it to give what I see. And at the same time, I'm really hoping that if I was on the other side of the screen and I was listening to me talk about the game, that I'd be learning something, because that's really the only time that I'm interested in the game. If I'm not going to learn anything from the announcer, or if it becomes too much about jokes and funny stories, now turn the volume down and just pay attention to the game. And I wouldn't want anybody to do that with me. So I hope that I'm doing a good enough job that people are learning something.
Well, and I think that's what the fans want to hear, though. And
sure, exactly. No question they do. And I think what happens in television too many times is people, they don't really understand how much people want to learn, especially in this information society, and how quick hit information is, and how we get our information now, how we get our news, how we get our knowledge. And so I've had to try to learn to be concise. I've had to try to learn to make a couple quick points inside of a few seconds, which I think is helpful. But again, I'm not interested. If I can't learn something from what I'm watching, then I'm really going to probably go to something else. And I try to have that same view when I'm doing television, or even I did radio this year for Westwood One. I did 2 games, and it was a completely different view of basketball, because now you're the point guard, the playmaker, the captain of the team. That's the play-by-play man, right? And you got to make a point quickly here and there, but you've got to give that person their time to be able to call that game. And so learning to be descriptive, like that was really helpful for me. I did the Division II championship a little over a week ago in Evansville. I loved it. I loved the basketball. I loved the preparation. The excitement of the game was awesome, but I was also hopefully able to make some points that people could register when they were listening to it on the radio.
Damn, I wish I'd have known that. Daggone. Yeah, I saw that game was going on. I'm like, daggone, it's in Evansville. I did not realize that.
But yeah, if you get a chance, I would recommend people, especially the way people love basketball, because it's not attended nearly enough. For the level of basketball, yeah, I wish I'd have gone in on a Tuesday for the quarterfinals. I didn't get in there till Friday for the practices and Saturday for the championship. But they play the quarterfinals at the Ford Center on Tuesday, so you got 8 teams in there. Then they play the semis on Thursday. It is tremendous basketball. I mean, just absolutely tremendous. The level of play. It's really in so many ways, like if anybody, you could watch European style basketball, right? In the passing, the movement, the freedom of movement, the pressing. You could watch that in Evansville, Indiana with half of the teams. It's just what it's like. I mean, the basketball is so pure. It's awesome.
That's and we are very familiar with Division II basketball in this area. Southern Indiana, until they moved up, was a great program. Bellarmine in Louisville with Scott Davenport was a great one until they moved up. Northern Kentucky, and it shows you though, all 3 of those, or at least those programs, they had success almost immediately at the Division I level, which is nuts, crazy.
Basketball, the coaching is so good. Like what we had on the Tuesday or that Saturday was a coach, Jim Crutchfield, who had Nova Southeastern undefeated, and he'd been there, I believe, 4 years. And the school he left was West Liberty, which was who he was playing in the championship against his former assistant and former player. And they were going into the game 33-3, and both teams were averaging 100 points a game. And their defense was excellent in the way of intensity. They both pressed. Basically, it was full court, all out pressing for 39 minutes of that game to really the last minute is when the game was decided. And it's incredible to see those kids and those young people work that hard, play that hard, be that unselfish. It was excellent. So there's so much good basketball in the world. And obviously Indiana is at the forefront of so much of it. And when you get a chance to have teams like that come in, why do they put the Final Four there every year? Not only because or so many years, I should say, not only because it's convenient, but because people have such a passion for basketball, and it's awesome.
Yep. And speaking of Indiana, they had 7 new faces that they were going to fill on their roster. They're down. They've got 2 freshmen coming in, Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton. They have signed Peyton Sparks, who left Ball State, and kind of cannibalizing their own there with Michael Lewis being at Ball State now. But they still have 3 more holes to fill. And so their needs, from what I saw in that game against Miami in the NCAA tournament, my gosh, Miami just was so much quicker and more athletic. And all of us saw that, man, Indiana has to really get more athletic, get faster. They have to get shooters. They need to make some changes in their offense, and that's nothing that's a secret. That's been said by the coaches and everyone else. But how difficult is it to know that you have to form a team that's going to win next year with what you have?
Well, I think, Mike's been at it a long time. Obviously, Mike's wanted the Indiana job for a long time. He's got it. They're doing a really good job with it. I think it comes down to, what does Mike see as the best way to win in that league? And obviously they had players that they played a certain way. Jalen Hood-Schifino, I mean, if he doesn't end up in the lottery, I'll be shocked. I mean, there's 2 guys that I think aren't getting nearly enough attention for how good they're going to be in the NBA. And I know Hood-Schifino is showing up in some of those mocks in the lottery, but I don't think there's any question. And then the other guy's Noah Clowney, who's a 6'10", 6'11" freshman at Alabama. Those guys, when it's all said and done, and they see the NBA see those teams work out, or see those guys work out individually, not only in the combines and things of that nature, they'll be in that lottery. But that'll be a big hole to fill. As will Trace Jackson Davis be a big hole. They had a good, solid, older team that could complement one another in a lot of ways. So it really comes down to how Mike wants to play. And I'm not sure what that is, moving forward when you don't necessarily have, Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis in there. But that's why, the most important thing any coaching staff can do is to recruit to the vision and to the personality and into the vision that head coach has. And I would think with Indiana's ability to have, name, image, and likeness money, with the support that's in that program, they should be able to recruit a lot of people that it'll be more of maybe a selection process for Indiana than anything else. And it really comes down to what's most important to Mike and how he sees the future of his offense and his defense.
Yeah, this was the first year that he said that he's ever run an offense through the center. It was kind of hard to not do that, of course, with Trey Jackson Davis. And a lot has been said about the Big Ten overall and the style of offense that they've played and not having a lot of success in the tournament. Is that fair, or is that coincidence, or is it just is there truth to that?
I don't know. I really don't know. We played a different style. Michigan played a different style when I was in the league. Michigan's pace wasn't as fast as ours, but there was a lot of movement in their offense. Their offense at Michigan was a little bit more systematic spacing, where our offense was more cerebral spacing. There was more playing off the ball, a lot of cutting, things of that nature. Bottom line is this: Michigan had success. We had success. Michigan State's always had success doing it with a certain way, with a lot of set plays, low turnovers, high rebounds. You don't win championships if you can't guard, right? You're not in the upper echelon of the league if you can't guard, right? And so, how do you guard? Do you guard half court man to man? Do you guard zone? Do you guard full court pressure? I think when you have outlier teams, like Penn State was really an outlier this year in the way that they had tremendous spacing. They had numerous shooters on the floor, and they had a guy in Pickett that could score from three, score in the post, play out of the post, but they had guys that had deep range on their team. When you're a little bit different, you can stand out in the league. Purdue was obviously a lot different because of Zach Edey and what he could do. Indiana was tough because they had a guy in Trace Jackson Davis that, so many people didn't know how to defend. Most people didn't know how to defend Zach Edey. And then you have a lot of other teams. Michigan State caught fire late. There's so many different ways to play. But what happens in the Big Ten a lot of times is people are very, very set in how they're going to play. And they're very sound in how they want to play, but that's how they play. So when somebody comes in that's a little bit different, utilizes spacing, shooting a little bit different, has something different defensively, like Kevin Willard did at Maryland, you're going to see a lot of parity in the league. And so I don't think it's fair to have any criticism of the Big Ten, because I think this year, more than ever, there was more parity based on style of play than what there had been. And maybe when I was in the league, there wasn't as much parity on style of play. Like I said, we were different. Michigan was different. But when you've got teams that force you to change constantly, I think that's good for the league. And I think that's why you see, you saw so many teams that were right there, right around each other, standings wise, even going up into the last 2 weeks of the season.
I talked earlier about, the TV work that you're doing and coaching. Obviously, a lot less stress in television than in coaching.
Oh, yeah, there is.
But and it's a lot, and I'm not going to say a lot less work, because I know that there's work to do, because I used to be a TV sports anchor. But with a coach, it doesn't stop. There's just no stopping point, it seems. It's just always going. You're always on. Is it good to get off of that wheel for a while, just to refresh the mind and the body?
No, not really. No, I don't look at it like that, because I wasn't, it was basketball for me, and it was family, and it was what it would take to make the program better. I didn't have a lot of outside things that would take me away from what was most important. And so not really. I think it's all of what you get energy from. I really do. Like if I didn't enjoy basketball, I wouldn't get energy from it. If I didn't enjoy being on the floor for individual workouts and practices, I got energy from that. I think I brought energy. Well, I got energy from it. And it's the same. I love to watch my family do things. I love to be a part of things for them. If golf and tennis brought me a lot of excitement and energy, I do that. But it just doesn't. So I think it's really what your priorities are, what you really enjoy. And I can be happy in different situations based on finding things. If I'm learning and if I'm around that, then I feel good, right? If I'm around people that I care about the most, then I feel good. But as far as coaching, I was ready to coach again the next week after it ended at Georgia, right? Same thing. It was probably 2 weeks after Indiana, probably 2 weeks, maybe 2.5. I was ready to go. And I wasn't ready that first weekend. I had an opportunity to get into a job that first weekend after Indiana, but I wasn't ready for that. And I knew I wasn't ready for that. But I think, again, when you love something, you can put it on pause for a minute, but you don't really turn it off. And that's kind of how I am with coaching. So I don't have any doubt that I'll coach again. I'm not looking actively for something just to coach, because I think you've got to have your priorities on what's most important. And there's got to be unbelievable alignment with your athletic director, the athletic department, and the president's office. You've got to have that. In this day and age, you've got to have NIL capabilities. And really, when I coach again, I want to be somewhere where it absolutely matters, and where it's they don't have to be winning, but it's got to be like people really want to see it win and they care. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for next. And when it comes, it comes. And in the meantime, I'll just keep learning and enjoying this and focus on how I can get better at television.
So during the summer, well, this was an odd year for coaching jobs. I talked to earlier before you joined us. There didn't seem to be that many. There seemed to be just like a few I could count on my hand almost, because we were thinking, well, look at Dusty May. Here's a guy who's having that year where he's going to be the hot name and he can go wherever he wants. And actually that wasn't really the case, because there was just Texas that kind of knew that was probably going to go to Rodney Terry. Ole Miss, we saw where that was going. Texas Tech, that would quickly filled up. Penn State, which is not a fun job, as I'm sure you know, filled up. So there was not a lot of jobs out there this year. It was an odd year.
Well, you're right, but I'll start with Dusty. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? And I think Dusty, from everything I've heard, that extension and staying there was well underway long before they got to the Final Four. And I heard him say it, and he's absolutely right. Don't mess with happiness. And I think in his situation, it's not just because it's Boca Raton and Florida Atlantic. He's building something. He likes where he's at. He's got good alignment. I don't know. I haven't talked to Dusty about this, but he's doing the smart thing. He likes where he's at. Now, at the same time, in college coaching, you can't fall in love with your job, because there's too many things that can happen, and there's too many situations that can change in a hurry, right? And especially in-house and inside the university and things like that. Those things can happen. So you got to be smart. You got to be careful, but you got to be happy, and you got to determine what your happiness is. I had this conversation with a guy last night, a friend of mine that's out of coaching for the first time. I said, before you make any decisions on what you're going to do, you got to prioritize with your wife what absolutely makes you happy in this, and then go from there. And don't be in a rush, because if you get into a rush and make the wrong decision, you can't get out of it. And it's really hard. It's really hard. And so I think that's the most important thing. It's not about how many jobs are open. It's not about what leagues they're in. It's truly about what fits you and what creates excitement in you. Because in this day and age, the people that are looking for coaching jobs, it's like the portal. If you just take the talented guy with good numbers and you don't dive in, is this person a progressive learner? Do they want to learn? What's their mindset like for winning? Have they won? There's so many questions that you've got to ask, and you've got to ask them in a short period of time, but you still have to be able to answer those questions for yourself. Well, it's the same with taking a job. The people that aren't doing as much research on the athletic departments, on the universities, on what's important to them, those are the ones that get stuck. And it's easier to say that sitting from my seat because I've coached for a long time, but I would give that advice to anybody. Don't take a job that you haven't done your homework on, making sure that you want to be in that job too. And I went through this as a young coach. You want to be a head coach so bad that you lose sight, or you don't know the questions to ask, or you don't know the questions to ask yourself. And that's so important that people take a breath and they really dive into what's important, because these jobs are getting harder. They're certainly lucrative. They pay a lot, all those kind of things, but they're getting harder because in this day and age right now, and I think this is the bottom line with where college sports is at. You've got to win more times than not before you build your program. And when you walk into a program, like, you got to find a way, we got to win, because there's very little patience on not having that. The days of what's going to take 4, 5, 6 years to build ourselves up, and then we're going to get consistent, those days are just about gone. Not 100% gone, but they're about 75, maybe 80% gone. And people can say whatever they want. That's the bottom line, and that's the truth from living in it. And I think people have to really look at that. And these are two-way streets. When you look at a job, when you recruit a player, when the player's choosing the coach, there's so many people that don't know the right questions to ask. So they just take whatever answer is given. And you just can't do that if you're going to be successful. And I think that's in all walks of life, but it's certainly the way it is in college sports right now.
Coach Tom Crean, I cannot thank you enough. You are always so gracious with your time, and I can't really thank you. You truly are, and it's always a joy to talk to you.
Sure.
And look forward to staying up with you and keeping up with you maybe over the summer and see what happens.
We didn't even get to talk about Terry Moore. We got to talk about Terry Moore before we go, and that job she's done.
Absolutely. How National Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
But not just that. I mean, that was I was very, very disappointed that they did not make the Final Four. I expected that to happen. What a tough reach, but they've got a great team coming back next year.
Exactly. Well, you can't give 4 steps on that last play. I mean, they made some mistakes in the game. Obviously, Miami made some mistakes. Miami found a way to win it. But, my only hope there with Terry, because I loved working with her. I think she's excellent. She could become the Tom Izzo of the Big Ten, in the sense, and I say that in this way. She loves the school. She loves being there, right? Well, the one thing that Michigan State figured out pretty early on was not to take Tom Izzo for granted. And that's why they learned early, okay, we're a national level program now, and we're going to treat Tom Izzo and this staff and this program like a national level program. And what Terry is doing at Indiana is so unprecedented in the way that she's doing it. And I hope that they understand what they have in her. I really do, because if she was ever on the open market and in sense of, why couldn't she be doing what Kim Mulkey's doing? I mean, all those type of people. I mean, she's a championship builder, okay? And she's got championships to prove it. And I think she's awesome. I think she's built continuity with her staff. She's built development inside of her program. And obviously I haven't been there in some years now to see it on a day-to-day basis, but I was there when she was building it on a day-to-day basis. And I saw those hard days. And I just hope that people back there, I know her fan base doesn't take her for granted. I hope that the school doesn't take her for granted, because that lady is she's not a star. She's a superstar. She's an absolute superstar. And I hope she's there a long time, but I hope they understand what they have in her, and because she needs to be rewarded and treated that way. I have no doubt in my mind.
Well, I agree exactly with everything you're saying. What she has done is amazing, and she has done it recruiting hard, coaching well, and all the other things you said about having the continuity on her staff with Rhett Wurzba and those people, and finding the right players. She has found everything you said earlier as well. She found the right players to fit what she wanted to do, and it is working out beautifully. And there's no reason to think that will not continue, like you said, as a Tom Izzo type. I never didn't think of
relating her that way, but the women's
Tom's
game
been
is
at it
becoming
obviously 25, 26 years, right? But I was there and then at Marquette in those early years, you know, when everybody looked at it, hey, Tom loves Michigan State. Well, absolutely he does. There's no doubt about it. But Tom was also a national level coach. And what happens sometimes is it's really easy to earmark or pigeonhole somebody. Well, they really love this. And this is just me speaking. This is just me speaking from being an observer, you know, and watching this from the outside. She's that good. And I think it happened at Georgia a little bit. I think they almost took Joni Taylor for granted there, and then she moved on to Texas A&M. And the Georgia program was able to win this year based on what Joni Taylor had built in it. But Joni Taylor at Georgia was building something outstanding. And the bottom line is, you know, when you've got a star like that, it's so important that they take care of her in the way that everybody around the country knows it, because that's how she's going to continue to build that program. What she's doing is very, very uncommon. And it's very, very uncommon at Indiana basketball on the women's side. And so for her to be filling that arena, I mean, you and I know I've been in there when there were probably 2,500 people in that building, right? Maybe. I've been in there when there were maybe 4,000 for an NIT game in the past. Now they're putting 17,000 and a half in there. Come on.
crazy. That's
just
crazy.
Don't take it for granted. She's really good, man. She's really good.
She is I believe, in a contract year, coincidentally.
She should be in a contract year any year she has a year like that. Right? It shouldn't be about I don't even know what her deal is, but it shouldn't be about that, right? I mean, it should be. I don't know how many years she has on it, but again,
I think she's entering. I believe next year is her last year.
Oh yeah, that's
the
even
contract.
more, and that's even more urgency then, right?
Yes,
because those are the kind of people. She's the kind of people you're proactive with, you're not reactive with. And that's the difference so many times in administrations, who's proactive versus who's reactive. And I think for her, you've got an absolute program builder, and now she's shown sustainer. And I think it's one thing to build it, it's another thing to sustain it. And it's a lot harder than people realize on all sides. So I think she's great. So.
And she is, and she's easy to be around. When you listen to her talk after a loss, after the heart-wrenching loss to Miami, she had it in perspective more so than most people. And I think, wow, that's really tough to do right after the loss. But to be able to have that perspective, it shows a lot.
Well, no question. In the seat that I sit in now, I mean, I just know how respected she was at ESPN, and she's not a secret, right? Like what she's doing is not a secret. And now, especially with the way this tournament has gone this year, and you see the numbers, the ratings for the game the other night with South Carolina and LSU, the ratings for tomorrow or yesterday are going to be phenomenal. Now there's talk of a new television contract. I mean, women's basketball deserves and has been moving forward, but it's going to move forward maybe at a much higher level right now than people can even imagine. So, because I mean, I just look at what they do at ESPN and my little corner of the world in Bristol, Connecticut, when I'm in there, and I see how important it is there. So when you see it taking off that way, they've got something they want to make sure that they do everything they can possibly do to hold on to, because she's building a great program.
Absolutely. I know you won't be out enjoying golf today, so enjoy whatever. What is it that you're going to do?
It will be 80, so I'll be outside here in a minute.
Are you putching around the yard? What are you going to be doing?
I don't know exactly. Today. Probably the first thing will be on my bike, but I run 5-6 days a week, 4, 5, 6 days a week. I get outside, but I'll figure something out.
Appreciate you so much, Coach Tom. You are the just gracious and fun to have on, and really, really enjoy it and look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely.
And get down to the Ugly Grouper. They'd love to have you.
I'll get there at some point. So
Tom Crean, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you. Tom Crean joining us here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio, and that's going to be a great wrap up for today. Thanks to Dustin Dopirak from Indy Star as well for joining us. Big thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. And John, the producer, for not beating on me too bad. We went over a little bit, but it was worth it, right? Hey, we got lots more coming up tomorrow and can't wait to get to it. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.